Alright guys, I think that I finally need to address this. Alright, the funny thing is, the majority of the views I have on my channel is for my film review Bully that I did back in 2009. And apparently a lot of people are giving me shit for this review because of the viewpoints I had on it back then. And I think I might as well just do a follow-up, considering how long it's been since I've actually, did this review. It's not going to be, systematic like it was, but, alright. Basically, back then, everyone got really pissed with, and people are still getting pissed for that matter, of the rating system I was trying to come up with for my film reviews, and I gave it a rating of passable, which in and of itself, I was trying to make it have my own little spin on it, and obviously I didn't keep up with it. I didn't, keep that as, the whole mantra with my film reviews. And basically it was a consistency of 3 out of 5 stars. I guess I should have used a different word other than passable, but still, everyone's gotten really pissed off by it. I found a lot of people who have been, constantly ragging on me ever since I put the video up that, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what are good movies. I'm just some dumb cunt that, just doesn't understand what, the film is about. So I want to go back and I want to re-clarify, not necessarily restate all the points from the old review. I'm just going to update it. Alright, 1, I love Larry Clark's movies. They're fucking weird as anything. If any of you have ever seen Ken Park or Teenage Caveman, I mean, he makes very bizarre films. But my favorite film of his is Kids, and so a lot of people have been, I guess, taking the wrong opinion that I don't like Bully. That's not true at all. As a matter of fact, I love Bully. I think it's a fantastic film, but I have some problems with it. One of the major problems I have with it is the cinematography. And I said this originally in the old video, the cinematography is very dizzying. And I said in the video that I know it's supposed to be that way on purpose, and I completely understand that. But the thing is, at the same time, it's a visual mess. I mean, from a cinematographer's point of view, from a photographic point of view, it's all over the place. However, I'm not saying necessarily that works to its disadvantage. I'm actually saying that that works to its advantage. It makes it a very unpleasant film to look at. It's not supposed to be a pleasant film to watch anyway. And so the cinematography complements the style that Larry Clark was going for. And Larry Clark is a world-class photographer. He knows how to frame stuff. He knows how to shoot things. If you've never found his photography book, I believe it's called Tulsa. Fantastic photographic book. I mean, I recommend everybody to go out and get this if you're a fan of Larry Clark's movies. But at the same time, I do find a lot of problems with it, though I guess you could say the major problem with the camera work is not necessarily the camera work in and of itself, it's the editing of the camera work, because it's very disjointed, and certain parts, they're fragmented, they're just pieced together, when really nothing in the rest of that sequence necessarily recalled for that. And it wasn't supposed to increase this feeling of displacement or disjointness with the characters or the world around them. It just was very dizzying. And then also at some part, there was this one scene where they first meet Leo Fitzpatrick's character of the Hitman, and it just constantly keeps going in a 360 motion, not even really stopping, and it just keeps going at the same speed, and it's very dizzying. And I can understand how you can try to get that type of cinematography in order to induce some type of kinetic atmosphere to invoke an emotional response. And I can understand if that's what they were going for. I just don't think they necessarily succeeded a lot when it comes down to the cinematography. A lot of the cinematography is good. A lot of the cinematography is relatively standard. and it's not a horribly shot movie by any means. The direction is incredibly well done, considering, Larry Clark, he made 2 movies before that. It was Kids and I believe One Day in Paradise with James Woods, and this was his kind of like his big budget movie. I believe this movie cost about $22 million, which is still huge, even in terms of just independent films. It's just a large budget, but at the same time, when it comes down, it was very well directed. Everyone played their parts to the degree I believe it was. And now, before you guys go jumping down my throats, I have read the book. I know that this is based on a true story, and also I actually know that the film was made while the trial was still going on, if I remember that correctly. But at the same time, I'm not saying necessarily that the way that these people portray these characters, these actual people, that these characters they portray are, badly put together or something like that, the things that don't make sense. I'm just saying that the way that they act is not necessarily always up to snuff. Now, I can understand, I've caught a lot of emails about my reaction to Rachel Miner's performance in this film, and basically saying that, I couldn't really stand her throughout the majority of this film. And it's true. I really can't stomach that performance that much. And I'm not saying necessarily that she does a bad job at that performance. I'm saying the character she portrays is just this pissy, whiny little girl. And I guess it might necessarily be the screenplay that is really the thing that is at fault here, because it gives such a fractured viewpoint on Rachel Miner's character's Lisa. It gives such a fractured viewpoint that so many of the things that she says and does throughout the film are either not clarified or they're not explained of why she does it. And for what it's worth, it's a very good performance. I thought everyone did a good job. But it also brings me to Brad Renfro. Now, I know that a lot of people are huge fans of Brad Renfro, and I know that he passed away from a drug overdose. And I know that a lot of times people can be very sensitive about something, especially involve someone that they really enjoyed seeing on screen, and also at the same time someone that was taken so young. I don't think that he was a good casting choice for the film. For what he did, the acting he did in the actual movie was relatively okay. I mean, I had really no serious qualms with it. I just think that actually if they had chosen probably a bit more of a believable actor than Brad Renfro, because at certain points it kind of looked like he was reaching. He looked like he was reaching to try to get this emotional attachment between the audience and himself, and also to try to make people feel this connection between them. And it never worked for me. He never connected with me on any emotional level. But if it connected with anybody else, by all means, I mean, for what it's worth, it's a decent performance. I love Michael Pitt. I think he's an amazing actor, and I still, to this day, I think that he does a great job in Bully. And also, if you've never seen him in other works, I recommend you see him in Funny Games, Michael Haneke's remake of his own movie, Boardwalk Empire especially. He's a fantastic actor. Then also we have the minor characters, and what I say about them still sticks. I thought everyone was the casting for the most part was really good. It was really spot on, and I just thought of all the people who were cast, I think that Brad Renfro was just the only miscasting choice. I think possibly you could have gotten someone else better to do it. I don't know necessarily who you would have chosen, because I guess you can say there's a number of different people who could have played that role. there were times that I completely believed Renfro was in the character, and I respect him for what he brought to the film. But at the same time, I still think that there's just it didn't necessarily jive with me. And then when it comes down to the screenplay, back to the screenplay again, the screenplay is very fragmented. Not necessarily saying that the scenes in and of themselves didn't work as pieces. I just think as a whole, it wasn't very concise. It wasn't very taut. Now, I have no problem with long movies, but then again, this movie isn't really long by any major stretch. But at the same time, I think that it got to a point where there were several scenes that were just filler. And I believe that at the same time that they were trying to get more of a bit of a character study, which I love. If anybody of you have seen any of my films, I love doing character studies. They're my favorite type of movies. But at the same time, I can see that they were reaching to try to do a character study, but at the same time, it just didn't. It wasn't believable to me. The several conversations, especially the one they had, I believe, what was that, at Pizza Hut, where they're talking so openly and so coyly about killing Bobby. It just didn't work for me. I mean, from the way I read the book and all this stuff, I can understand all the actual historical accounts that this comes from, but at the same time, it just didn't work as a movie. Now, obviously, if the people themselves reacted this way in real life, that's one thing. I'm not necessarily judging this film on its historical accuracy. I'm judging it as a film in and of itself. I'm judging it as a work of art. Because obviously, an adaptation, based on a true story literally just usually means this person or these people lived at this time and they did this, and everything else in between is to whatever they want to have happen with whatever the screenwriter wants to do. It happened that way with A Beautiful Mind. A lot of the more grisly things that happened in John Nash's life in A Beautiful Mind was not documented in the film. They didn't show his constant infidelity, how he cheated on his wife several times, or also, a lot of this other stuff that kind of mixed together, and also it meshed certain things together, and that was the same thing that happened with Bully. But I'm just saying, from a film's perspective, it's not cohesive enough. The screenplay is the base for a production with me in any regard. If the screenplay isn't strong, if the screenplay isn't strong enough to carry the production, then everything starts to fall through. It just because something has a large budget and a lot of production value doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good movie. And there are plenty of times throughout Bully that I believe that actually that it is a very good film. That there are tons of scenes which I think just by themselves are unbelievable pieces, and great lighting, great acting, editing usually sometimes is very, very good. But I guess you could say that my major two qualms with it isn't necessarily entirely the acting or the direction, because the screenplay kind of pushes that along. And another thing is that the production of the actual film is always setting out to make a certain point. And I believe that the point that bullying in and of itself, being someone who is extensively bullied throughout all of grade school, I was beaten up, verbally abused, all that jazz, seeing the lengths that people can go to because they're backed into a corner, I can completely understand and relate to this. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will make, that just because you have a strong concept, just because you have a strong theme that a lot of people hold very close to themselves and that have affected them in a variety of different ways, that it means it will make a strong movie. In this regard, I believe that Larry Clark borderline succeeded on having a great film. I believe that Kids is his magnum opus. I believe that it pretty much is the best film that he's come out with to date. I've seen What's Up Rockers. I've seen Ken Park, Teenage Caveman. I've seen Another Day in Paradise. And so, like, I can definitely see his docudrama-esque style, and I love his style. His style is a huge influence on me. If you ever seen my movie Suburban Children, you can definitely see so many different correlations between kids and that film, because actually, while I was writing the screenplay, that was the time when I was really introduced to Larry Clark. But at the same time, I mean, Larry Clark is a mastermind, but it really depends if he has a really good screenplay. Kids worked really well because Harmony Korine really did know how to write a screenplay about those people in that area during that time period. So because Larry Clark had that access to that great script, and also all these, the acting was great in that film too. Rosario Dawson, Chloe Savini, Leo Fitzpatrick, Justin Pierce. Everything kind of meshed together perfectly, and I think it was an amazing film. Bully, the screenplay was nowhere near as strong as it could have been. And now, could they have done a lot of things better, as I've just said? Could they have done a lot of things better? Yes, of course. Can any film do things better? Of course. No film is perfect. But at the same time, there are a lot of great things about the film. So I'm just clarifying to everybody out there who thinks that I've been hating on Bully for like the longest time. No, I don't hate on Bully at all. I think it's a great film for what it is. If you're not an analytical person when it comes down to making movies like me, it's a hell of a ride. It's a grotesque movie that shows a very stark hyper-realism point of view when it came down to this specific event in history. And also, if you're interested in reading up on the actual story behind Bully, information's all over the place. You can find stuff on Wikipedia, the book's out there. I don't know if it's still in print or not. But at the same time, just clarifying, I'm just judging this as a movie in and of itself. I'm not saying necessarily, and that's the one thing too, when it comes down to movies adapting from books, or especially from real life, there's always going to be deviations from the story. But that's not what I'm going about. The thing that I'm trying to strike at here, as just for a movie's perspective, it didn't necessarily completely jive with me the entire time. There are plenty of movies that deviate from actual historical fact that I find amazing, like Dog Day Afternoon. But at the same time, this one just didn't necessarily sink. But having said that, will I recommend this film? Definitely. Will I recommend any Larry Clark film? Of course. I mean, even Teenage Caveman, which is a ridiculous film by any stretch of the imagination, it's definitely a film worth watching, because Larry Clark is just one of those directors who has a very, very unique style to himself, and also at the same time, whenever he collaborates with someone who really clicks with his style, then you can definitely see the real talent that Clark has with directing people and also photographing films. So, finally, as a final word on Bully, if you want to watch it, if anything I've said have made you hate me even more, I mean, that's entirely your point of view. The great thing about films is that it's entirely subjective. I mean, what things that I like might not be the things that you like, and vice versa. I catch a lot of flack from being like one of the few people that I know of who hates the movie Titanic, and I have a feeling that people are going to rag on me now for that, but, whatever. It just comes down to the fact that there are so many movies out there with such a diverse range that a film that is this close to people, and also with dealing with a subject that is this real to so many people and has affected so many people's lives, I can understand where you guys misunderstood me. But also at the same time, I was 18, 19 when I made that review, well before I got fully immersed into everything involving these types of techniques in films. And also that was I had only watched Bully about twice to three times before just writing that review. Now I've seen Bully about 10 times, and probably more. I mean, I've lost count, really. But at the same time, watch Bully if you're interested in the subject or if you like Larry Clark. And also, my rating still stands as kind of like 3 to 3.5 out of 5 stars if you still want to go with a stupid star rating or whatever. But at the same time, I'm not hating on Larry Clark. I'm not hating on Bully. I'm just voicing my opinion. Thanks, guys.